been 14 years since IndyCar visited Homestead, Miami for racing action, but we head our way to the Sunshine State with IndyCar on its summer break and iRacers ready to tackle this challenge. 125 laps ahead, and with more than 20 Dallara iRacing stacked up and ready to go, Monday night IndyCar should be fun as ever. Welcome along to the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Delighted to have your company as we make our way into the second half of this championship season. Last week, of course, we made our way over to the circuit at Interlagos. Very fun to be able to break out and try something new, and we'll do the same in 7 days' time. A trip to the streets of Chicago, and boy, what fun that will be. Before we link back up with the NTT IndyCar Series as it makes its way to the Worldwide Technology Raceway, some short track racing on August the 12th, Watkins Glen then the next week on August the 19th, before we finish out the season as IndyCar returns to the Milwaukee Mile. We'll close out 12 very fun weeks by heading there as well. A quick look at how the championship has shaken up, and now with the drop rounds being brought into play, it's a 12-round championship. Drivers are allowed to miss 4 rounds or exclude 4 bad rounds from the points equation, and so Phil Krause currently leads, but Sam Carasal has jumped to second, with Seb Alexander dropping from second to 5th. Some big swings through the field and some close battles even through 6th through 12th positions. Well, a quick pre-show because the drivers are already lined up, locked and loaded, and ready to go racing. Mentioned 125 laps thrown onto the board, and they've already gone out there and qualified. So let's head down trackside here under the night lights at the Homestead Miami Speedway and see how they'll line up. And so it's private label Team Hype and Powerslide Motorsports on the front row, with Jason Brophy inside of Adam Blocker. Rob Malechka then sits inside of Marco Aurelio Brazil, with AJ Musselman and Mark Murphy sharing row number 3. Sam Carasala, Seb Alexander, row 4. Brandon Roseborough and Olivia Hayward share row 5, with John Badefer and Robin Glennox just behind them. About 0.3 of a second through the field, and I think this is where we're going to start to see Dirty Air play its part as we get underway. Kevin Hayes and Lucas Lodato share row 7. Alan Berteau rolls 15th. Omer is alongside, with Nicholas Sudik, David Henger just behind them, and then Matt Taylor, Dan Ench, Benjamin Hackerson, and Ellis Spice. 22 cars lined up and ready to roll. 125 laps does mean that I think the window on tyre is going to be quite interesting to see how the drivers all decide to play this race on out. Now, in terms of racing that is regularly seen at this track right now, of course most famous obviously for the races that the NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity Series and Truck Series all come and run around here. It used to, of course, let's not forget, be the championship finale. One interesting note that I didn't realize until just before tonight, Formula E is going to be coming here as well in the future. That's going to be wild. Can't imagine what that's going to be like, although let's not forget that the Indy cars do come and test here on the road course. Have done some testing, I believe, on the ovals as well. But it's a bit of a dream for many to have IndyCar come back out here, hopefully sooner rather than later. Here we go, though. Cars off and away. We're ready to go racing. Pace car will just do its solitary lap at the front of the field before off and away Jason Brophy gets ready to lead us. 125 laps, trying to work out what a fuel window is going to end up looking like. Probably somewhere in the 46, 47 lap range. It does mean that we're potentially in for a bit of fun in terms of the strategy. Who's going to be bold? Who's going to try something different? Should be something interesting for the drivers to be thinking about further back in the field. Threat of cautions as well, let's not forget. But here we go. Pace car is going to peel off and away. Take a look at those weather conditions. About as cool and as ideal conditions for racing as you'd like. Field in the hands, though, of Jason Brophy up front. It's Powerslide Motorsports, it's private label Team Hype 1, 2, and 3. They're single file themselves out. We're racing here for round number 8. So plenty of grip, and look at them fanning themselves out behind. but teammates up front swapping around. It's going to be Blocker who looks to get to the middle. Malechka who feeds himself up high. Oh, that was a very wide arc from Marco Aurelio Brazil as he tries to cover off some moves from behind. And 3 wide up front, 3 wide for 4th as well. Oh, intense stuff and cool conditions. You expected this. Brophy washes up high. Blocker almost runs into his teammate Malechka around the outside. And the 2-for-1 special. Malechka takes the lead. Comments in the YouTube chat saying that Rob Malechka didn't plan on racing. Wonder if he was peer pressured into this. Oh my goodness, that was a pass and a half though. And it sets the tone for what to expect for the rest of the day. Brazil being challenged by Murphy behind. Up high on the banking they run. Murphy in that Indy Alliance racing car down low. He's got his teammate Seb Alexander behind. How much downforce have these drivers been able to throw on the car, you wonder, in these cool conditions? We ride on board with AJ Musselman. Great to see him back on a Monday night. So Malechka's punching in fastest laps up front with the clean air. Murphy's been unable to pass Brazil. And now his teammate tries to take a look, and Marco Brazil going way up high, trying to find some clean air on the nose as we ride now with the black and gold of Brandon Roseborough. Progressive banking. Can Roseborough take advantage around the outside? Musselman's riding. He's taking it easy in the early stages here. Good run though. Here comes the 14. Seb Alexander trying to now hold up high. Remember, tyre wear going to be a big old factor as we get later and later into the course of these runs. Roseborough slots back into line behind Badefer. Starting to struggle. He's 3 positions down since the start of this one. Make that 4 now. Kevin Haynes around his outside. I tell you what, they're moving as well. Marco Aurelio Brazil is caught up to the back of Jason Brophy. And so now it seems as though track position very important and clean air reigning supreme. Jacob Oster saying based on historical trends he didn't want to race. All I'm going to say is hashtag blame Jacob. Olivia Hayward's now past AJ Musselman as well, so very much I think riding on the fuel numbers. And Brandon Traino asks what are my thoughts on Dover. Now are we talking about Dover in England? Are we talking about Dover the racetrack in the US? There's so many options here. I'm sure there's some other Dovers as well I can go for. Olivia Hayward now going to try and pass Brandon Roseborough. It's a lot of speed. Working on the in-car tools in that Prismatic Motorsports number 19. Ooh, now did she go up a little bit too high? Both Alexander and Roseborough running the bottom and middle respectively, feeding maybe a bit too much dirty air behind. And here comes the Musselman, trying to muscle his way down low. And Olivia Hayward almost doing the Ross Chastain, ripping the wall. And as Roseborough gets past Alexander, can Hayward follow through as well? Brazil's going to pass Brophy up front, potentially. That's the fight for 3rd position. Brophy holds on. And Alexander looks down low once again. That's on Hayward. So that move's not done and dusted and locked and signed just yet. Now they're making, in the YouTube chat, it's just not fair. They're talking about dinner and food and all of that stuff. Phil Krause saying that Rob also promised that he wasn't going to race and now is here racing. To be fair, Phil Krause could have been here trying to make it a private label team hype power slide 1, 2, 3, 4. He chose not to. That's on him. Brazil still puts the pressure though onto Brophy, who in that number 3 car. The car lengths between the two of them on corner entry. It sequences back into line for the time being as back up front really starting to open up. And we've gone green for what is now 12 complete laps. Always nice to be able to say those words. look at the momentum the cars carry as well. Alexander still challenged by that Prismatic Motorsports car up high. No fastest laps anymore from Malechka. He's now dropped around 4/10 compared to that fastest lap. I tell you what, probably not a bad point of comparison to try and dial up Mark Murphy versus Malechka. Murphy just sits in front of these drivers, of course. So about 4/10, 3/10 a lap or so, the advantage. Has Brophy been passed? Yes, finally the door has been cracked. Although, here comes the cutback, the switch up. Back up the inside. Is he going to slide up the track here? He's going to have to try. Oh, Brazil's going to do the same to him now on the run down to turn 3. Palm trees in the background. But it's no easy day on the beach when you're racing here at speed. Brazil's going to do the shuffle up high. And Brophy too far behind now. Shuffle back down to the line. And Brophy's going to throw it back up. Oh, he's going to really chuck it up as well. I'm going to cost each other some time here. Although I think Brophy very much helping his teammates up front. Meanwhile, ride with Seb Alexander back in 8th position now. Brophy in Brazil still going hammer and tongs, you can see just at the top of the screen here. Phil Kraus is asking a very important question. Are we sure that Jason Brophy loaded the right power slide and private label team hype setup? Because his teammates having a very different experience. It's Switchback City up here for 3rd position. Crossover once again. Running down through turn 1. Remember, progressive banking. Running around here, and it's working a treat. Cut back once more. I'm not going to get a break in this race, am I? So I tell you what, let's turn up the sound of the engines. Let's enjoy from Musselman's perspective. I believe the kids would say they be hauling. Running down into turn 1. There's a look though at your battle for 3rd. Still just crossover city between Brophy and Brazil. Neither one able to break the ankles just yet. Oh, but I tell you what, this is going to be tetchy. And I think it's allowing those behind to close. Let's take a look at the comparison. Oh yeah, 1/4 of a second, the last 2 laps. And this is not swapping back and forth like we often talk about at Indy and various other speedways. No, this is a battle. This is a proper fight. They've lost a good 5 seconds to your race leader, and now Brophy on the outside. Is that a sign? About halfway through the fuel window. What's going to happen here? Yeah, outside line starting to become more dominant. The broadcast booth has no opinion on Indy pit exit. Or maybe what I should say is we'll save that for Thursday night. You have to tune in for the next round of the IndyCar Butt Kicker iRacing Series qualifying series. And maybe then I'll reveal some thoughts. Right, so 2 seconds between Malechka and Blocker. 3 then between, or 3.5 now between Blocker and Brophy, who's now got a stranglehold once again on the 3rd spot on the podium. And so 1, 2, and 3 as they enter an iRacing. And iRating running out on track as well. Then Brazil, Murphy, Roseborough. We're starting to be challenged by Olivia Hayward in that black and gold Hydra Race entry. Alexander down low, washes up the track slightly. Only 9 seconds or so off your leader is this little group. And speaking of traffic at this point, surely a reality before we even head into the pit stop window. There goes the move from Hayward up the inside into turn 1. Slide their way on forward. Nice and tiny between the two. Alexander going to take advantage of maybe a misstep from Hayward to try and juke down low. Let's see what happens though with now 25 laps complete. Jump on board with Alexander in the bottom as he slides up the track. Hayward is so committed to going up high as well. A little bit worrying on occasion. There doesn't seem to be any damage just yet. Question about gas versus brake. Well, all I know is the pedals work in both directions, so use them how you need to. I've got to go back and look at the results of that's the sound of Hayward scraping the wall behind. Sudik and Glenix wheel to wheel. Is either one going to blink? Nope, the All-American iRacers driver has driven up 6 positions so far, continuing to climb their way on forward. Been some decent movers though in the race so far as a whole. Remember that for Seb Alexander. Finish inside the top 10 of Saturday's race in the 3rd round of the VCO IndyCar Challenge. Racing at Iowa. His teammate Kevin Burrell was in front of him. His teammate Sam Carosala was behind, so 4 of the Indy Alliance Racing drivers finishing in the top 10 was a pretty good day for them overall. Around the outside for Mohamed Amer. Brandon Roseborough starting to struggle now 30 laps or so into the stint. So Marco Brazil's dropped around a good 2.3 seconds off of Jason Brophy. So no draft, but also no dirty air. So pluses and minuses in that 10 factory sim racing machine. What's Mark Murphy going to do here? Really starting to close. So he's going to go up high, run on the banking, and try and now wheel off the corner in the attempt to try and close. Roseborough now down to 12th position. He's really starting to slide. And next up for him will be Matt Taylor in that MadWorks number 10. Right on board with the MadWorks machine. Jinks up the inside, shimmies his way into the corner. And yeah, Roseborough almost looking like he might have hit the wall or something. 26.989 last time by. Not the ideal lap. Meanwhile, Murphy has made the move on Brazil, who's now, well, let's see what he can do in dirty air. So lap 33 about to be complete. And so about 10 or so laps away from the opening of the pit stop window. .3 seconds the margin between your leaders, been holding relatively steady. Malechka not really into the traffic just yet. Only Lucas Lodato is 1 lap down as it stands right now. There's the view from the race leader. Dan Liench will be the first driver to navigate through. That is next on track there. You can see heading off to turn 3. Closing up slowly but surely. Meanwhile, Brazil versus Musselman. Wheel to wheel. On the outside for the 10 factory car. which, based on the trend, should give it a bit more purchase at this stage with the tire. Maybe just doesn't have aerodynamical or mechanical grip. Remember, you do have the weight jacker, the ARB at your disposal, but that's it really. Then just down to your 2 hands, your 2 feet to get the most from the machine. Look how much margin they give each other as well. It's half a car length, half a car width, if that, between the two of them. Meanwhile, a bit more room being given between Glenix and Matt Taylor. 11th and 12th positions, respectively. 1.5 behind of Nick Sudik now, who, well, was the biggest mover, but Matt Taylor is now stealing that away from him. Plus 8 so far on the day. We're at that point in the run, though, where the fall-off has very much arrived. Last lap, about a second slower for your race leader. A 25.5, the fastest lap, a 26.5 last time by. Here comes Sudik to the inside. That All-American iRacers car looking very strong as the run goes on. Let's not forget, though, as they're pretty racy back here. Sudik now not really getting the move done. Brandon Traino asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions in chat. We've got a fight for the race lead starting to close on up here. Adam Blocker's gotten to within about 1.5, and I wonder if, yes, here we go. First car down on pit lane. It was Marco Aurelio Brazil that was always the most apt to blink first. So the 10th Factory Sim Racing car in after what was just 39 laps. This is the view from Blocker. Sits in second. Goes where his teammate isn't. Seems as though another driver is going to dive down onto the box. Here comes Olivia Hayward. That's at the end of lap 40. So where is Brazil going to feed out? That's a bit of a question to get answered here. So he's 1 lap down already. There's Benjamin Hackerson coming around the outside in 16th position. So, as your race leader, still some ways away. Brazil only 1 lap down. Oh, Hayward reports contacts while she's down on pit lane. We'll see if we can get a replay at some point. We are in the window, that is for sure. Hayward spends a couple of extra seconds down in the box. Dan Liench also now there as well. Right, here we go. Who's going to be first to blink from up front? Let's see if we can figure out what happened here to Olivia Hayward, running down the back straightaway. Ooh, Brazil slides up the track. Hayward runs out of room, I think, and time to really react. And the right front of the wing goes missing. Seb Alexander looks to be the next to come down pit lane by the timing screen. And indeed. Oh, and he spun it on pit entry. Oh, heavens. We know it's difficult. There's an example, case in point. And I wonder if his Indy Alliance Racing teammates had something happen to him as well. Like a Sam Carasala is now slow on the racetrack. This is a replay. Uh-oh. He does a very, very good job of locking it down, but not one, but two Indy Alliance Racing cars with trouble then on the entry. Here's a look on board. And the car pitches around. Fastest lap, by the way, from Marco Aurelio Brazil, so he's responded with the undercut. We thought you could go as long as maybe lap 47. Is that what your leaders are going to try and do? Malechka stays out. Blocker stays out as well. Behind, does anyone pivot in? Doesn't seem as though. There's Nick Sudik going up high. He's going to try and get a run here in the fight for 6th. Amer's 11. A little bit stranded in terms of speed, no man's land, but just enough momentum off to turn one. Sudik caught in some indecision. Here comes, though, crucial time. Blocker stays out. Malechka comes in. So it's undercut versus overcut. Brophy went, let's not forget, on a bit of a defensive run. He'll stay out there as well. Murphy not going to dive in and respond. Let's follow along with now new race leader Adam Blocker. Where does Malechka feed out? Remember, had a considerable advantage relative to the likes of Brazil. But what happens here in this pit stop window? It's not as insignificant undercut from Brazil. 7 full laps is going to be the lead for Malechka in terms of net. 7 seconds clear of Brazil. And Blocker's going longer and longer and longer. Meanwhile, his teammate, it is going to be Brophy in. Murphy's going to stay out, though, I think. No, there he comes. Pair of Indy Alliance, excuse me, no, it's Nick Sudik that follows him in. Thought it was another Indy Alliance racing car. Never mind that. So Blocker, Amer, Taylor and Glenix. They stay out the 1 lap longer, but here they finally come. Led in by Blocker. So, as Brophy hits a stall, where is Rob Malechka? Already rumbling down to turn number 1. And already having gotten back past on Jason Brophy at this point. So the next question to answer, where does Brophy feed out relative clean air? He's still 4 seconds clear of Marco Aurelio Brazil. Meanwhile, Blocker hits his marks. And it's a 7.97 second stop. Taylor and Glenix, Brito, Beta for Hackerson, Spice, Hayes. They've gone a lap longer. They've tried to put a couple of cars into the danger zone. But they will finally be forced down onto pit lane as Blocker rejoins. Very little fanfare, no traffic to deal with. And a good 3 seconds off of your leader. There comes the field, though. Brito, Beta for Spice, Hayes. It's now just 3. Taylor and Glenix and Hackerson yet to pit. Speaking of, here come 2 of them. And assuming Hackerson, I was going to say not far behind, but there he is staying out 1 lap longer. He's got David Henger behind him. First car 1 lap down. But I think finally here he comes, pits in off of turn number 3. So 53, not long enough to go on a 1 stop. Maybe long enough to open up some options. Right, so Brazil. His undercuts giving him a gap on Murphy and Sudik. Let's see what's going to happen to him now, though. 3.5 seconds, 10 laps. Older tires for the 10 Factory Sim Racing car as Blocker goes fastest. Very quick lap. 25.453 was a 7.63, excuse me, from Malechka last time by. What's it going to be this time? Not a new fastest lap, but still a good lap from Blocker. And this is where that overcut's working a treat. Another comparison. Another 4/10. Blocker delivering right now. Can he get the gap down to under a second and really start to put the pressure on? Meanwhile, behind, the muscle man has David Henger in front and Matt Taylor behind. A couple of cars that made the pit window really work for them. Look at those movers and shakers. Sudik plus 11, Henger plus 11 as well. And Taylor trying to join them. Other musclemen in the equation as well there. Enger's lost some momentum down low. He'll lose not one but two spots as Taylor gets around the outside as well. Not sure if anyone touched the pit entry or exit line here. I think Lucas Lodato might have had to come back in for a second time. Sam Carasala may have been dinged for speeding on pit entry. And despite the fact that Seb Alexander crashed on pit entry, he's still left on the leading lap, albeit down in 12th. Let's take another look at those deltas. Only a tenth or two on 56 and 57, and lap 58 goes the way of Rob Malechka, the man in the hat. And is he the man with the plan? A gap under 1 second for the first time in a long while. So as Blocker continues to work, Taylor fights up the inside of Musselman. There is fighting, to be fair, today. This is not necessarily as bad a race as some would have predicted. And I mean, to be fair, Jacob Oster, Phil Kraus, Brandon Traino, Christian Steele, all those drivers in the chat, and they very well could have been here as well. 7 tenths, the margin up front. Separation really starting to shrink now. But dirty air starting to pile up. It was 3 lap pressure tires for Blocker. And since that lap 58, he's been in the green for the last 2. One more lap. Is it going to happen? There is some dirty air from the traffic in front. And that's Brandon Roseborough in the black and gold Hydra-Ace geodesic machine. Nearing the halfway mark of this race. Remember, conditions haven't varied too much. Pretty much perfect for racing, wouldn't you say? As much energy as possible being put down through the tires. Right front, the one that takes the most abuse over the course of the stint, though. And now that separation is really stifled. It's holding steady at 7 tenths between your leaders. So Blocker going to have to do all the hard work again on the next pit stop cycle, you'd think. Have to keep an eye on where this margin goes from here. Margin is really closed, by the way, behind Brazil. He's passing Sam Carasala. He's 2 laps down from the leaders now. But Carasala's teammate Murphy very much on the hunt. And maybe Carasala actually passing Brazil there. Again, oldest tires of anyone on track. These engines are really being put through the ringer today. And here on the outside, Brazil, he's just not got much left to defend. Sudik's going to try and throw it to the inside as well, down through turn 1. Oh, Brazil almost washes up into the wall. Car is really struggling now. That 10 factory sim racing car, only 3 seconds clear of Matt Taylor, and probably around at least 10 laps away from wanting to come down onto pit lane for what would be the final time today, let's not forget. So there is that to think about. Oh, that's a broken race car, Kevin Hayes. Oh, and the caution flies and changes the complexion of the race. Well, slow things down and let's wind things back. Your race leader no longer dominantly up front. And remember that power move that he made to get the lead? He's going to have to do it all over again. Here's what happened to Hayes. on the seam. Car steps around. And the left front into the wall. And with the oncoming traffic, I think decided it was not worth sitting there any longer. Field's going to come down onto pit lane, you'd feel. And yep, there's a look. Here they come. It's busy as well behind. Your front three drivers have a bit more separation. So let's take a look at this. Race off of pit road. Who wins it? Brophy with the best pit stall. And all three of those drivers in the top three hit their marks. And so Malechka away, Brophy away after blocker, and then behind. Can Brazil hold on? No! Murphy gets him, so does Sudik. Taylor in front of Musselman, then in Glenix, Hanger, Hayward, Alexander, Berteau. Those cars all now going to be scored on the lead lap and having pitted. The likes of Rosberg, Beta for Hakkisen, Spice, and Ench. They were one lap down. And they will cycle back around onto the tail end of the lead lap. So it will mean once we get ready to go, 18 drivers and cars back on the leading lap. However, 14th through 18th will still owe us a pit stop. Your leaders technically will also probably owe us a pit stop, but cautions breed caution. So we'll see what happens. Meanwhile, Carasala's in. By himself, it would seem, as well. No one else following him. Very interesting. There's a look from up above. So around 50 odd laps to go when we're back underway. 54. I think that's an accurate number. They're doing some fuel burning, that's interesting. Would not have expected that. Now we're just waiting for those cars to get their wave around, for us to get that signal that the one to go is near, and for us to go back racing. And we should, fingers crossed, see it this time by. Just waiting for the sign. Well, the engine's rev, that's a pretty good sign. Here we go, ready to rumble. And so now Malechka and Block are going to cycle back up behind the pace car and get ready to lead us back to green. If you're Mark Murphy, this is your chance to put the pressure on. And you've really got to take advantage. There's no ifs or buts about that, that's for sure. All these drivers are going to be hungry. Take advantage on this restart. Don't sit back. Be as proactive as you can. And so, we're ready to go. It's been a pretty clean race, all things considered, up to this point. What are we in for now? There's only one way to find out, isn't there? And that's to get the green flag back in the hands of Barney the flagman. Let's turn up the sound of the engines as Malechka holds them and we go racing back here at Homestead, Miami. It's a bit of chaos behind. It's allowed the front 5 or so to break away. Murphy and Sudik have joined the 3 up front that have led for the most part. Musselman's fighting with Taylor. Henger's battling with Brazil. Alexander now up the inside of the Brazilian. But lots of chopping and changing. Are we in a fuel mileage race, though? That is the question. See the lap times this time by for your leader. That will tell us a lot. So it was a 25.694. That's pretty quick. Brophy passes Blocker. Or tries to, at least. Here they go, still fighting wheel to wheel. Brophy's got it though. Inside does hold enough speed and momentum at this time. Here comes the fight back, the response. Murphy sits there and waits. He lunges to the outside, tries to find some more clean air onto the nose. This allows Malechka though re-establish his race lead. It's about 9/10 or so as we carve back to the line. End lap 75 and 50 laps left to go. Brophy sends it up to the wall. V's it back off the corner. And here comes that momentum built up. Blocker forces him the long way around. Now these are teammates being forced to fight. Big send into the corner. And there goes Brophy, gets the move done. Nick Sudik has a look. Makes the move on Murphy. Can he make it stick through the opening 2 corners? Yes, he can, and yes, he will. Some assertive moves being made. Similarly, Matt Taylor has now made his way forward. He's in 6th spot. AJ Musselman looking down low, though. How's this going to go? Costing each other some time now to those in front. That Madworks entry up high. Just can't do too much. Meanwhile, for the lead, it's back on as the caution's back out. And it's a big one. Alexander involved, and Marco Brazil as well. Outside of the 2 of them, though, I think we got very, very fortunate. As ever, RaceSpotTV replay machine misses nothing. Here we go. So Alexander up high. This is on the entry down into turn 3. We're going to see some drivers down to pit lane this time by. Oh, it's a big wreck, that's for sure. I'd like to maybe try and take a look from up above. Now is Brazil trying to cut off Alexander? That could have ended up being a lot worse at the end of the day. Let's look from back here and see if we can also jump on board with Seb. I mean, Seb's basically right up against the wall. I don't really know what more you can ask from him. But yeah, as expected, here we go. It's right within the fuel window. There's a couple that are going to be brave. Malechka, Musselman, Berteau. But the race off and away. Who gets away first? Hope you hit your marks. Hope your pit crew works well. Brophy drops. He's just in front of Blocker. Then Sudik, Murphy, Taylor and Glenix. Henger neck and neck with Hayward, I think that was. Very, very close. I tell you what, that could have been very, very interesting. We're set up now very, very much on a knife's edge. The 3 up front. Bold. Those behind. Maybe taking the safer play. Is it one that's going to play out? Those coming down pit lane, by the way, not on the leading lap. So don't get too confused by the sight of the Lara IRA teams rolling down the lane. This is going to be interesting. I still have no idea if this is a good call or not. The main reason why I don't know, if I'm being honest, is I think you're relying on more cautions, aren't you? Although we had cars go to 51 laps, didn't we? So I guess no, it's totally fine. Let's put it into the YouTube chat. Let's ask the poll. Would you have stayed out? And it is just a yes or no question, so I don't even need to put in a custom thing. So bish bash bosh, off and away goes the poll. And let's see what chat thinks about this. I mean, I think you stay out if you're further back. I mean, the fact that Jason Brophy and Adam Blocker came in, I think tells you that maybe coming in is not a bad call, right? I don't know. I'm not smart enough at the end of the day. Should get ready to go next time by, though. So 43 laps left to rumble. Robin Glennox has decided to jump back into pit lane. Mohamed Amer has followed him in. So maybe just trying to top off on fuel. Interesting call there. We're at 57% yes. 43% no. I'm going to give it like, oh, we're 50-50 now. You know what? End poll right there, right as we're getting ready to restart. Turns out, even our audience can't be split. I think we're about to find out the importance, though, of clean air versus fresh tires. Brophy and Blocker have got to get their way past Musselman and Berteau, and sooner rather than later. And so once again, it's fielding control of Rob Malechka. We've had 2 cautions so far, and off and away we go here at Homestead once again. Brophy gets a good jump. He's right on the back of Berteau. It's a bit more of a margin between Matt Taylor and Mark Murphy at 7th and 8th positions. Roseborough gets in front of his teammate John Badefer. 3 wide. Blocker and Brophy trying to get to the inside. You can tell they need to make this move. Brophy tries to slide up, but he's not clear. Blocker through. He's forward to 3rd, and now Brophy swarmed by Sudik as well. If you ever needed an indication of how important momentum was. Back pass. Sudik, though, for the number 3 private label team hype entry. And now with assertiveness, looks to the inside of Blocker as well. Already has made the move on Berteau. 41 to go at the line. Malechka's 1.3 seconds clear of his teammates, now fighting for 3rd and 4th. It's a big buffer starting to be built up. And they're going crisscrossing, much like Brazil and Brophy did earlier. We said this wasn't necessarily fast. Is it fast when you're working as teammates, maybe? No, Blocker covers off a move to the inside. It's getting feisty. Very, very feisty. And around the outside with confidence. Jason Brophy makes the move, much like Malechka did in the early stages, let's not forget. There's a look from the start-finish line. Still 19 cars running in this line. Not expecting traffic really now before the end of the race. Already we've started to see the impacts of the dirty air, it being difficult to pass. Here we go. They're costing each other time here, let's not forget. Blocker's not going to be clear. Oh. What's rule number 1? Don't hit your teammate. Almost violated that right there. So as David Henger, Olivier Hayward behind swap around as well. Murphy and Berteau. Remember, there's a 10-lap delta in terms of tires. Yes, a couple of those laps under caution as well. But Berteau's holding on very, very strong right now. Murphy finally through. On board with Jason Brophy in third, behind the Musselman. To the inside. And that should see the move done and dusted. Behind, oh, watch Blocker and Sudik. Sudik looking very impressive in that All-American iRacers number 6. Up 13 positions so far today. The Musselman frustrating Jason Brophy though. You can almost see the eyes of Brophy behind the helmet. Once again, fresher tires, but no luck down low just yet. No wibble wobble either for either of them, so they're looking very, very stable, seeming like might be able to do this for another 10 laps or so in the case of Musselman before tires really start to show the impact. But pass has been made finally. Took a while. So 23 laps into the stint for the race leader. 12 laps into the stint for the driver chasing him down. Sudik's past Musselman as well. Wow, I mean, that's dizzying almost. Speed of these cars at all times. That race at Iowa we had on Saturday, third round of the VCO IndyCar Challenge, was a lot of fun. Short oval racing at Iowa, 18-second lap times. That put the drivers through a bit of a laundry machine wash cycle sort of a thing. Spin cycle, whatever you call it. Locker's up now in front of the Musselman. But no longer private label Team Hype and Powerslide Motorsports 1, 2, and 3. Now that All-American iRacers car has climbed its way on forward very, very nicely. So as your leader still enjoys around 0.8 of a second of a lead, those behind not enjoying so much clean air. Olivier Hayward's fixed the front wing, still out on track and still in a top 10 position. As Bader Versat behind, David Henger just in front. And Hayward really is very happy still to run up high. Kind of thing that once upon a time we'd call a video game line, and now we call the Ross Chastain line. Isn't it weird how that works? Anyway, Henger struggling down low, and as much as Hayward is kicking up sparks on the left, on the, I was going to say left side, the right side of the car, I think getting away with that for the most part. It's quite remarkable. Nearing the 25 to go mark in this race. And Jason Brophy still 9/10 behind. You can see the lap comparison. It's one thing to close, it's another thing to pass as well, let's not forget. Brophy's doing everything he can, searching for some clean air, searching for some speed. And still, we're talking hundreds and thousands here and there, making those gains. Behind, Matt Taylor has just gone in front of Mark Murphy. Although, not just yet. Indy Alliance Racing's number 4 up high. Taylor down low in that MadWorks Motorsports number 10. And they stay as they are. Taylor up 12 positions so far today. It's been a good day for him overall, you'd have to say. Alan Berteau and Olivia Hayward, they swap behind. Remember, choice to go long from Berteau. Chose not to come down in the pit stop window. Will go 3 wide. Henger down low. Berteau splitting the difference. And Hayward once again ripping the high line. No changes just yet. Hayward holds on. Henger 9th. Berteau in 10th. And meanwhile, your lead continuing to come down. And there's the shot off the shoulder. So under half a second for the first time. This time by, what's the difference in lap time? Let's find out. It's another 3 laps in the green. And I guess the deeper we go as well, is there going to be a cliff that continues? Which is to say, really, is Rob Malechka going to continue to fall off in terms of speed at the same rate as Jason Brophy will eventually start to fall off? 4/10 the gap. Remember, no pit stops. We know that's for sure. They're trying. They're moving hard right now up front. Let's go back in the pack. Hayward might just have hit the wall for real this time by. David Henger takes advantage, grabs 8th. He's up 10 positions of his own as well. 3 drivers inside of this top 10 with double-digit gains. It comes at the expense of the likes of Lucas Lodato, Sam Carasala, Seb Alexander, and Marco Brazil. 3 drivers with double-digit losses, unfortunately. Alexander and Brazil confirmed DNFs alongside Mohamed Amer. Still have 19 cars out there and circulating. It would be interesting to get the NTT IndyCar Series to come here in real world action, especially with the hybrid. I know there's talks of it, but hopefully it becomes a reality. That gap up front, by the way, re-established. Brophy's hit the cliff. Sudik starting to close as well. $18 laps to go at the line. Meanwhile, Matt Taylor and Mark Murphy still going at it back and forth. I guess we're reaching that point where neither the low line or the high line are particularly good. It's just about which one your car works better on. Trying again is Taylor. Might need to take some tips from Olivia Hayward, though, about running up high. Maybe that would be the way to make this move happen. Slides up the track. Oh, has to give some space, though. You can run wheel to wheel here for lap after lap after lap, it turns out. It's just not necessarily recommended. Lap times for these drivers a good 2-3 of a second slower than those up front. And speaking of, it's now 1 full second back between your teammates sitting first and second. Murphy, though, in this little fight we continue to watch, very much going to hold on making Taylor's life very, very difficult. We have a fight for second, though. On board with Nick Sudik in the All-American iRacers car, running on lap 111 of 125. He is closing on Brophy as well. Brophy may have burned up the tires in trying to get close enough to challenge for the lead. And now swung back around. Have to keep an eye on them. As Taylor finally made this work. He's clear, he can slide up the track. And he's got sixth. Definitely not going to confuse that car for anything else, but here comes a switchback as Murphy tries to reclaim the position. Power around the outside. And I think now Taylor's got the car to hold on. Working on the in-car tools, let's not forget. 13 to go becomes 12 for your leaders. Sudik within striking range. That car worked pretty well in the dirty air of Brophy. Is this maybe as well a situation where Adam Blocker can take advantage? You have to assume that somewhat of the thought process going through his mind right now. That camera angle shows you a visual example, though, of the gaps that are built through the field. There comes Sudik's charge. Has the front wheels alongside. Arc down through the corner. Brophy tries to pinch. Not going to arc up all the way up the track. I think Sudik's got the move done. He won't move up high. He's got to give Brophy the room. But now down towards the second part of the corner. There comes the slide job. And Brophy now going to try the crisscross. He'll try the slider as well. Oh, be careful with how you then jink back down onto the start-finish straight. Now, Brophy would have led if that was the battle to the line. But still got a handful of laps before we get the run to the checkered. It's probably time to speculate. Not about who wins this race. That's probably Rob Malechka. Question really is who grabs second and third. There comes the overspeed from Blocker. Will he slide past his teammate as well? No! Contact! Brophy's in the wall, dangling nose cone, but the green's still out on track. Slight miscalculation and big consequences. Now, does Brophy... Oh, Brophy's got a meatball. He's got to come back onto pit lane. He's got no choice at this point. Now, does Blocker have any damage as well? If Jason does not come down onto pit lane, he will be disqualified, unfortunately. I don't think he's got a choice. And indeed... incident just happened a bit too late for him to get down safely. And he makes the right call. So, back over to the fight for second then. Now without the private label team hype, number 3. And this the sequence of how it unfolded. Blocker trying something that you'd think would work, but the wall ride from Jason Brophy may be a bit more appropriate for Tony Hawk than anything else. Let's look off this quarter of the car. Well, I'm not even sure if there is netcode between them. Anyway, I think Sudik doesn't have enough tire life left to put a fight up in these closing stages. What do we still have left to go? Rosberg on the back of Glenix. That's for 11th position, just outside the top 10. Lucas Lodato, that's a lapped car who's alongside of John Baderfer in front. Really not much in terms of the fighting. Rosberg gets the move done on Glenix as well. That was well executed. Meanwhile, here comes your race leader. Rob Malechka in the private label team night with Powerslide Motorsports #1. Just 2 more laps to go. What's his teammate going to have to do in terms of defense, though? Both cars go up high in this fight. Now, if you are Nick Sudik, you'd think at some point you're trying to get out of the dirty air. Try and do something different and then arc off the corner, but that doesn't seem to be the case. 1 more lap to go here. And 124 laps, just 2 cautions so far. But 2 very decisive cautions in terms of the timing. Really influencing how the race played out. But your winner didn't really have to do much in terms of looking behind. He charged around the outside in the early stages, took the 2 for 1, and Rob Malechka, 125 laps later, victorious here in the Sunshine State at the Homestead Miami Speedway. It is a power slide and private label team hype 1 and 2. Jason Brophy going to be disappointed he's not up there, but contact with the teammates. We think a quick discussion post-race and they'll move on from that. Rest of the field comes across the line. Not too many close finishes, all things considered. Might have been hoping for a little bit more. Well, there comes the #1 machine. The double iRacing Indy 500 champion from this summer. And now going to burn it down here at the Homestead Miami Speedway after a dominant race victory. He's getting used to these burnouts as well in victory lane. I think we should get used to seeing them as well. So Rob Malechka, Powerslide Motorsports and private label team hype 1 and 2. 2 seconds splitting the 2 of them, with Nick Sudik climbing up a quite remarkable 14 spots to be in 3rd. AJ Musselman sits in 4th, but Matt Taylor also up 14 positions. Biggest movers of the day for Sudik and Taylor into the top 5. Murphy down in 6th, David Henger in 7th, with Alan Berteau, Olivia Hayward and John Bader for making up the rest of the top 10. And David Henger, by the way, another one of those double-digit gainers over the course of the 125 laps. And Glenix 11th, and then Rosberg, Hackerson, Spice and Ench all left on the lead lap. 1 lap down for Lucas Lodato, with Sam Carasala adrift 2 laps by themselves. Kevin Hayes 3 laps down. Brophy 6 laps down. Did manage, I think, to head back out onto track and salvage at least some sort of a finish, while Seb Alexander, the first DNF, alongside of Mohamed Amer and Marco Aurelio Brazil. Well, that was a fun race, all things considered. Could have been a little bit more stop-start. That was the expectation from some. And so let's head down trackside and have a chat with, well, at the very least, our race winner, Rob Malechka, who's standing by. And Rob,
hi.
It was a fun pass, at least at the start. 2 for 1 around the outside on both of your teammates. After that, though, a little less fun for you up front, but a dominant race victory. Talk us through that in the private label team hype with Powerslide #1.
Yeah, Adam and Jason did a really good job on the setup in limited time. We've always had a pretty good baseline here, and we just kind of built off that in the hour and a half we had. And made a great setup, especially in the long run. I mean, I think we were good on the short run, don't get me wrong, but I think we really showed our speed once we got past 20-25 laps into the run. So, pretty straightforward race for us 3. Seems like there are some good dramas in the back there between them 2. So I'm curious what they have to say. But, all in all, good win, good 1-2, and death for Jason, so take it.
We'll take it indeed. Talk me through the decision to stay out, by the way, because the fact that both Jason and Adam came down to pit lane kind of indicates that it wasn't a clear-cut decision to stay out. What was your thought process about staying out with, what was it, 54 or so laps left to go?
Yeah, it was not an easy decision at all, right? I mean, either you can pit and be full push to the end with a little bit better tires, or you can have clean air. And it seemed, at least when I got the traffic there at the end of the first stint and halfway through the second stint, that it was pretty difficult to pass cars, which is kind of typical with Homestead, with it being a low grip surface. So yeah, we were barely hitting the number before that yellow, and I'm like, you know what, if I can save, it's a longer yellow here too, so if I could save just a bit more fuel and kind of control the race from there. I knew once I got 15-20 laps into that run, I had it under control. So that's what happened. And then I had the last 10 laps or so when they were scrapping in the back, I was just a map 5, saving fuel from burnout. So yeah, pretty good.
Seemed to help in terms of the strategy call. You let them fight, and Jason Brophy tried to get close, burned his tires up. Great race victory for Rob Malechka, and hoping to see you next week when we make our way to the streets of Chicago.
That's hilarious, Arjuna. You should be a comedian, let me tell you.
I know, I laugh saying it as well. I couldn't even keep a straight face. From Rob Malechka, I should say, to Adam Blocker sitting second in that Powerslide Motorsports number 2. And Adam, I mean, I've got to ask about the contact with you and Jason. You tried the slider, might have been a bit of netcode between the two of you. Talk us through that in the battle for the final 2 steps on the podium.
Yeah, I mean, so first on the restart was pretty crazy, and you know, we had a couple cars in front of us that stayed out, and they kind of, you know, they kept us guessing on what lane they were going to run, and I got shuffled back some on the restart, which was a bit frustrating, but eventually, you know, got my opportunity. Jason kind of killed his tires, and he was defending well against Nick, and Nick committed high, and Jason kind of mirror drove him in 1 and 2, and I was close, and so I figured I would just really just bomb it in there and just see what happened. And you know, I was going to get Nick easily, and honestly, I mean, I almost cleared Jason, but I kind of got stuck in a weird spot where I either needed to lift a little bit more and leave him just like half a car width more, or I needed to honestly drive it in harder and clear it, because I lifted a little bit to give him space. I gave him a car width and a half, so I mean, it wasn't like, you know, his front wing hit my back tire, but I think it was probably more on me. But yeah, it's just one of those things that happens. Unfortunately, feel sorry about it, but yeah, I mean, it was an interesting race besides that.
Well, it was a strategic race as well, and I was just asking Rob, you know, decision to come down onto pit lane or not, right, you know, what was it, 55 odd laps to go, and he said it was a difficult choice. Was there any thought in your mind about staying out, especially when you saw Rob indicating he was going to stay out?
Yeah, so I thought most of the field would pit, and that is what happened. I was honestly hoping that it would be harder for Rob to hit the number in clean air, but yeah, I think if everyone had gone, I don't know, it's hard to say. I don't know, I wasn't really sure. It was a tough one, so yeah, it was a really tough one. I mean, I was kind of hoping it was going to go green the whole way, because, you know, I went along the first pit cycle, but I was going to do an aggressive undercut, I think, the second pit cycle, because the undercut seemed powerful and you couldn't pass, so I was just going to go for it, but didn't really pan out so where I could do that, so.
Well, great to have you back on a Monday, Adam. Been a while, and hoping we see you a couple more times before the IndyCar season picks back up, and maybe next week on the streets of Chicago.
Yeah, definitely see some of the upcoming weeks. Yeah, thanks for calling the race and supporting the series and community as you always do. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody for coming out, and thank everybody at Powerslide for all the work. See y'all sometime soon.
And so, from Adam Blocker down to Nick Sudik, who charged his way up to the final step on the podium. You must have had a pretty fun and feisty race set up there.
Yeah, I was shocked when once we started, you know, get the feelers out, first couple laps. You know, I had pace, and I was definitely holding back, saving the tires on that first stint. And then we got about halfway through the first stint, and I just said it's hammer time, because I was holding back probably about 80%. I was just coasting along. Yeah, it was flying. God, Sophie, Connell, wow, great tweaks to the setups we had. You know, they have been great. great helping on the road course side. We've had a fairly strong showings, especially for a small team like AIR and the resources we have in the Pro Series. Sophie and the rest of the team, they all have a lot to be thankful for. And here too, and it's showing. I mean, this is becoming a regular thing, Arjuna. I'm showing up on these ovals now.
Yeah, next time we're heading off to the Worldwide Technology Raceway. So how are you thinking you'll feel going over to one of the short tracks in one of the final ovals of the season? Of course, Milwaukee Mile to close off the books.
Yeah, I'm not the best at short tracks, but Gateway, it's very much a hybrid. You've got the very, very narrow turn 1 and 2 complex, and 3 and 4 is almost flat out depending on the conditions. You have to do a slate lift. A lot of aero games can happen too, very similar to here at Miami. But I think we just keep the momentum going up. I feel good. I feel really confident. My goal was to be in the top 10 by the finish. I know there's some people with drop weeks and haven't quite filled out their entire sheet yet for points, but I think we're definitely on for that top 10 goal in points for the season here. And then it's just a warm up for the Pro Series qualies. And hey, I have a 0.5% chance shot. Who doesn't? Keep the confidence up. That's what I said.
Nick Sudik third, and wrapping up our post-race coverage here on RaceSpotTV. Looking forward to heading off to the streets of Chicago next time out. I can't quite believe I'm saying that out loud. But yes, I've done some laps there myself, actually, including this weekend. It's very bumpy, very interesting. I don't know how much passing we're going to see, but maybe that's where it gets interesting in its own regard. And plenty of these teams and drivers will, of course, be competing this weekend in the VCO IndyCar Challenge at Belle Isle. So you'd expect they will probably have a pretty decent balance already in terms of the car setup, and not going to need to do too much more moving forward from there. But I guess that's time for us to say goodbye. Another great Monday night IndyCar outing. Always fun to head here to the Sunshine State, albeit maybe under the night lights, and Homestead Miami Speedway delivered some drama. Contact between teammates, a win for Rob Malechka. Had a little bit of everything, didn't it? 2 cautions as well. Can't wait to go oval racing in a couple of weeks' time when we make our way to the Worldwide Technology Raceway. But we'll see you next time out from the streets of Chicago. Arjuna Kankipati signing off for our team here behind the scenes at RaceSpotTV. Can't wait for you to join us. A busy week ahead of us in the world of sim racing.